So now you can see the document which I am trying to show. Yes. So I hope now it is audible to all of you. True, is it correct? Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
Now it is audible. Yeah, very good.
Yes, Guruji.
We are able to see also the document, right? Text 10 we were discussing. So I just shared all these things till now. So text 10. So अथमे देव सम्मोहम उपाकृष्टम तमर्हसि यो अवग्रहो अहम ममेति इति एतस्मिन् योजितस्त्वया. Yeah, please now someone else can read maybe. Now Prabhu, you can read. Sachin Prabhu.
Yes, Guruji. Now be pleased, my Lord, to disable my great delusion due to my feeling of false ego. I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations.
Yeah. So Atha means like therefore now. Oh my Lord, please remove, please dispel apakrishtam, this sammoha, the great delusion. Please dispel that. And by which what happens? That leads to avagraha. What is this avagraha? Avagraha. Graha is something which catches you, like a crocodile, no? Caught the gajendra, right? So the misconception or avagraha means bhakti amrita vrishte pratibandhaka. That thing which actually prohibits one to experience the devotional pleasure or devotional nectar. Bhakti Amrit Vrishte Pratibandhaka. That avagraha in form of aham and mama. And not just that, aham mameti iti. So there are two words, iti, iti. So aham mama iti, this is one, and that which is caused by them, that is raga, dvesha, etc. That is second iti. So please remove this avagraha by removing the delusion of Akrishna. And how I can remove? If Lord asks, then she will say, actually, because of you only it has been created. Etasmin yojitah tvaya. Because you have created this material world to fulfill the desires of conditioned souls. So you have covered them up with the external energies curtain. So now you have put, now you only remove it. So that's what she is telling to Kapil Dev. You have arranged this illusion, now you can remove the illusion. Actually, same way Srila Prabhupada praised on the Jaladuta. That the whole world is being deluded by your Maya. And if you wish, you can remove that. Right? So that is what she is also saying in a very personal way to her son and spiritual master as well. Right? So that's how she is saying. So essence of illusion is aham and mama. And those things which are born from aham and mama. That is the things of that type, like raga adi grahanartha. So I and mind produces all these things. So that's how Prabhupada puts that whole thing as a false ego. Feeling of false ego. Aham mameti means false ego. So grosser false ego is mama and the finer false ego is aham. And their further children are rag, dvesh and all that. So that's how this verse is, the meaning of this verse. So Prabhupada elaborates that the false ego of identifying one's body as oneself and claiming things possessed in relationship with the body, his body is called Maya. That itself is Maya because it's not mine. It's not me, neither it is me, neither it is mine. But Lord awards that conviction and understanding because Lord is sitting in heart. Bhagavad Gita 15.15, right? So that's how he is continuing. So then Prabhupada raises a question that is it that Lord is partial? He is giving bondage to some people, liberation to some people. So no, it is not like that. Does that mean that Lord discriminates by engaging one in devotional service and another in sense gratification? No, that is not the case. He reciprocates according to the desire of the devotee, of the living entity. So, and how it does? By putting the influence of three modes and Maya. So these are the activities of Maya. Since Maya is also agent of the Lord, it is indirectly the action of Lord. So Lord doesn't directly cover actually. Through agency of Maya he does. The Lord is merciful. If anyone wants to forget him and enjoy this material world, he gives him full facility. Not directly, but through the agency of material potency. So this is the subject matter, as I was telling earlier also. That Lord's mercifulness has to be understood, that how he makes a living entity enter into matter and matter consciousness, and how, if he wants, he can make us liberated. Because it's all agency of Lord of external energy. That's what is Sarga is all about. We try to understand the external energy and Lord properly. So by grace of the Lord, one is allowed to enjoy the material world. But when one is disgusted with material enjoyment and is frustrated, and when one sincerely surrenders unto the lotus feet of Lord, then Lord is so kind that he frees one from entanglement. So Lord reciprocates according to your desire. So when, as we discussed earlier, when one is frustrated and disgusted, but that is not enough. If that would have been the case, then everyone would have been self-realized because everyone is getting frustrated. But what they do, they try another way of doing the same thing. Punah punah charita charvana. So, but here one has to surrender, sincerely surrender to lotus feet of Lord by surrendering to his devotee. Then Lord frees. So, and then Prabhupada goes on to say that Lord will take care of all sinful activities. Just surrender. Whatever your background is there, doesn't matter. Because all activities are sinful except the devotional service. So people will say that this is pious and this is impious according to dharma. But according to bhakti's paradigm, everything done here in the modes of material nature, and therefore all activities but the service of Lord are sinful only, more or less. As Prabhupada says, na, wet stool and dry stool, pious activity and impious activity. Without connection to bhakti, both are sinful only. And because of sinful activities, we become attracted to the material attachment, the illusion of material attachment. So the attraction and absorption and entry into material consciousness, material attachment is because of sinful activities, because of not doing devotional activities. So that's how Prabhupada is extending the principle further by saying everything other than bhakti is sinful. It's a very strong words of Srila Prabhupada here. Because everything is tainted by the three modes. And three modes means there is some level of selfishness there. So, like charity to a needy person with a view of getting back the money for time increase. So people do these activities like mode of goodness activity, mode of passion, but that is all sinful. Like that Prabhupada is very strongly saying. So one has to surrender. Yeah. So now her last verse of her expressing Sharanagati. Tantvam gataham sharanam sharanyam स्वभृत्य संसार तरोह कुठारम जिज्ञासयाहम प्रकृति पुरुषस्य नमामि सद्धर्म विदाम वरिष्ठम. Yes, bro, you can read one more verse. Sachin Prabhu, someone else can read. Maybe Sachi Sundari Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
So now she is inquiring. Not she is inquiring at the last line that Prabhupada is saying. Jidnyasayaham prakritehe purushas. So I want to know the difference between the relationship between Prakriti and Purush. So man and woman, Prakriti and Purush mean that also. And it can mean spirit and matter also. So I inquire. To whom I inquire? I inquire the best person. No one else can be inquired. And even if inquired, they cannot give the full clarity like you. Because who are you? Sad Dharma Vidam Varishtham. So there are Dharma Vida and there are Sad Dharma Vida. Sad Dharma Vida is Bhakti. And among all of them, you are the best. So I inquire from you this difference. Prakriti Purushasya difference. So if one knows that difference, then one can give up the Prakriti, right? One can become detached from Prakriti by knowing what is Prakriti and Purusha. Right? So that's the point here. I think Sridhar Swami mentions that in his purport. What he says is, Jiva Goswami says that by knowing the difference between Prakriti and Purush, one will able to become detached from Prakriti. So that's the thing. So I should ask you and no one else. Because you are Saddharma Vidam Garishta. With desire to know about Purusha, the Jiva in the material world, and about Prakriti, from which material existence arises. Because you are the best among the knowers of process to destroy samsara, the process of bhakti yoga. Saddharma is bhakti, and you are the best knower of bhakti, by which, of course, the destruction of samsara is the secondary effect of bhakti. But that's what is emphasized here. So actually this whole Kapila section is going to help us understand very clearly what is Prakriti and what is Purush. So if you see these chapters I have put here, these are currently we are discussing 25th chapter and she has asked this question, right? A kind of a seed question. So Kapil Dev in the next chapter and the next two chapters, he is going to explain us Prakriti very clearly. You see the titles, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. In 27th chapter, Understanding the Material Nature. So, and then there is Kapila, there is execution of devotional service and devotion. So actually, this is how Kapil Dev is very threadbare. He is going to do threadbare analysis as Sankhya it is, right? For us to understand this. So that's how he is going to answer the difference between Prakriti and Purusha very clearly through the methods of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So 26, 27 are Jnana Yoga, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, you can say. And 28 is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, and 29 is Pure Bhakti. So that's how he is elaborating this. So that's the point. So as I said to you, Jiva Goswami says, Samshara Sabdena च अत्र लोभनीय दुष्कुल कंटक जाल मतया अंधकत्व. So samsara, what is swabhrutya samsara taro kutharam. So you are like an axe by which one can cut the tree of samsara. What? How is the samsara look like? Lobhaniya dushkula kantaka jala. So it is very attractive and very difficult to give up thorny forest. Can you imagine these two words? This is very attractive, but it is thorny. So it has to be cut. So she is using these words. And how it will be? Because it is cause of bondage, because it's attractive as well as thorny. So one has to become frustrated with it. Once one knows Prakriti and Maya and Purusha jignasayati, Prakruto jnatayam tatyagena purushanu sambhava. So by knowing properly what is Prakriti, what is material nature, one can give up that and become closer to Purusha. That is possible. So that's what Jiva Goswami is elaborating, the desire of heart. And Prabhupada also elaborates. So that's how these chapters are set, which we are going to discuss in next sessions. So understanding the Prakriti and then etc. So Prabhupada also says that there is intricacies in the material world of the relationship of Prakriti and Purush, the enjoyer and the enjoyed, and that is called samsara. And that is called very nicely by Jiva Goswami as attractive or thorny forest. And the tree of material existence, so that is explained in 15th chapter also, Ashwatham, Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam, Ashwatham Prahuravayam. So that has to be cut, and we have to cut that. Right? So what is attachment? Acts of detachment. So detachment, there also it is said the same thing. Asanga sastrena dhrudena chitva. So the attachment involves Prakriti and Purush. So that's how he does this threadbare analysis. Only he could cut the attachment, not anyone else, because he is an expert. Then Prabhupada says that how in this world everyone is imitating Purushon. Purush Bhav is there even in the woman and even in the so-called man also. Right? So that's what is the core problem of Purush Bhav. In this material world, both so-called man and so-called woman are imitating real Purush. So both want to become Purush. So how can marriage happen then? Even in the sense, if two Purushas are only marrying each other, then what will happen? The Purush Bhav is there. So Devati wanted to get out of this conditioned life and place herself in full surrender. So Sharanam Sharanam, I am approaching you because you are worthy of surrender, because you are the best knower of bhakti, and I want to know the difference between relationship with Prakriti and Purush. So please cut this deep attachment. I have surrendered to you. So this Saranagati is the very, very important principle which she is depicting here. So that's how this purport goes. And at the end, Prabhupada said, Sad Dharma Vidam Varishtam. So Dharma means that which cannot be given. Sad Dharma means Bhakti, eternal occupation. So the purpose of Kapil Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service. So it is not just some Sadharma. It is Sanatan Dharma in form of pure, unalloyed devotional service. So he explains that along with Mishra Bhakti. So as I told in the previous purport that first he will tell the difference between Prakriti and Purusha by Jnana Mishra Bhakti. That is next two chapters, 26, 27. 28th chapter is Yoga Mishra Bhakti and 29th is Pure Bhakti. So that's how he's very clearly telling us what is mixture and what is pure. So that's the purpose of Kapil Dev. Pure and uncontaminated. So why these two words are used? Because it has significance. So that's why he is addressed as Sadharma Vidam Varishta. Right? So she is expressing now her Sharanagati in this particular verse. So having said that, now Maitreya Muni is zooming out and showing the pleasure of Kapil Muni. Before in the next verse onwards, he will start answering. So Maitreya Muni is speaking now. Maitreya Vacha Iti swamaturniravadhyamipsitam nishamya pumsamapavargavardhanam धियाभिनन्द्यात्मवतां सतां गतिं दभाष ईशस्मितशोभिताननः. Now, Shubhalakshmi Mata, you read the translation.
Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her question, and thus his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization.
So, iti swamatur niravadyam ipsitam. Her aspirations were faultless. Niravadyam. Iti means in this way, whatever was spoken in previous verses. Her own mother's words, which were faultless. Faultless aspiration of, and he was smiling. Vabhasha Isha Smita Shobhitana. So he was smiling in a sense that, when Lord smiles, there are many reasons. So Acharyas tell us what is the reason. So Kapila is smiling. Why? You are mother of Supreme Lord. How can you be in Maya? Anyway, I will teach something to deliver the common people through teaching you. Right? So that's how he is smiling. That you are inquiring on behalf of all other conditioned souls. You are my mother. How can you be in Maya? So Isha Smita, little bit smile, slightly smiling. Instead, very beautifully. Shobhit Anana. So her enquiries were faultless. And hearing that, Nishamya, Pumsam Apavarga Vardhanam. By these enquiries, what happens? People will become interested in liberation. Apavarga Vardhanam. Mokshe Rati Janakam. Apavarga Vardhanam. Not the Dharma Artha Kama Rati. Trivargikam, that is material life. But what is the goal of human life is? Kamasya Nendriya Priti Labho Jiveta Yavata. Jivasya Tattva Jitnyas. Like moksha. Dharmasya hi apavargas. Apavarga Vardhana. So with his intelligence, he thanked his mother. Dhyam Abhinandya. Atmavatam Satam. So he was very happy because he got opportunity to teach for what he has appeared. So by his intelligence, he thanked her and smiled at her. So that's how this verse is meaning. So Prabhupada writes about this, that how this Apavarga Vardhana. So yeah, please read this first portion. Yeah, this part. Unless one is
interested in understanding his spiritual life or his constitutional position, and unless he also feels inconveniences in material existence, his human form of life is spoiled. One who does not care for these transcendental necessities of life and simply engages like an animal in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating has spoiled his life. Lord Kapila was very much satisfied by his mother's question because the answers stimulate one's desire for liberation from the conditional life of material existence. Such questions are called Apavarga Vardhana.
yeah. So our inquiries are for approaching the Supreme Lord. Right? That's why he was satisfied. Right? So these are the prerequisites. There is interest in spiritual life and there is inconvenience of material existence. So that's the proper time of approaching spiritual master. Spiritual master is not approached when you complete IDs. So that is a system. The point is that what it is said that jigyasa, no? What is that? So there is one verse which very clearly says the qualification to approach Guru. So Guru is not to be approached for solving our material problem. Not at all. There should be jigyasa, genuine So what is that? Tasmat. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreyam uttamam. So jigyasu shreyam uttamam. When one is inquisitive about spirituality and he is looking for eternal happiness, then one should approach Guru. So that's what is being said here. That actually we will approach when we will have this disposition. That at least theoretically I understand and I'm seeing to some extent that this material life is useless. Material life is not going to make me happy. Although I am attached to it, I am also interested in it. But at least I understand by hearing and seeing that I don't want to enter further into it. Rather, I want to withdraw and become interested in spirituality. So that's how these questions are very pleasing to his Kapil Dev, because the answers will stimulate one's desire for liberation. Right? So the urge for self-realization is awakened by such inquiries. So that's the thing. And asat grahat is incompatible situation of a spirit soul who has false idea of enjoying matter. It is the cause of soul being asat. So asat graha. Earlier it was there. Right? So that's how he is saying. So now Kapila begins to answer in a very systematic way. As I told you, he is going to answer in a very systematic way for so many chapters. Right? So he begins here. So these are very, very important teachings as we saw yesterday. The Bhagavad Gita and the teachings of Lord are transcendental like Lord. So they are beginning now. So kindly pay your best attention for the Lord's words which are coming from his lotus mouth. So these are actually one of the longest teachings apart from Uddhava Gita and Bhagavad Gita. Right? Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters, Uddhava Gita is around 25 chapters or so. And apart from that, not such elaborate teachings are not spoken anywhere in Bhagavad by the Supreme Lord himself. There are teachings of Narad Muni to Prachini Varishad. They are also quite long, but they are 4, 5, 6 chapters max. And these are around 8 chapters, 25 to 33. So very, very important teachings which Prabhupada emphasized. Prabhupada wrote a book also, spoke lectures also on this. Of course, he spoke only on this first chapter. So let us pray to the Supreme Lord while entering into his teachings, his divine words, that we could grasp them, try to understand and live by them. So with that prayer, we begin the teachings of Kapil Dev here. After he is happy to hear the inquiries of Devhuti who are done on our behalf. So text 13. So 13, so just to tell you the section now. So 13 to, so 13 to 18 he is going to tell us that Adhyatmik Yoga. So Bhakti, Jnana and Yoga. All these three aspects he will tell. And then from 19 to 25, he is going to emphasize that Bhakti is the best among all these processes. Although they are yoga processes only. Like you see, Bhagavad Gita also there is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Right? Same is the case with Uddhava Gita, which is more elaborate. So here also. So he is going to explain other processes as well, but the Bhakti is the best. So first he establishes, as I told you, that this chapter is telling three things, right? I told from Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. Bhakti Utkarsha, so excellence of Bhakti, and the characteristics of Bhakti, and the power of Bhakti. So all these things are told in this chapter. So we can understand the potency of what we are trying to practice and what we are practicing. So let us see. So 13 to 18, all three processes. And then 18 to 25 is the excellence of Bhakti. Right? So let us enter into this. So she is answering. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Yoga adhyatmikah pumsam mato nishreyasaaya me atyanto paratir yatra dukhasya cha sukhasya cha. No, who can read? Yes, Surya can Krishna can read the translation.
Personality of Godhead relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in a material world, is the highest yoga system.
Yeah. So the yoga system, so yoga adhyatmika. So this adhyatmic yoga means relating to soul, spirituality. So what is the purpose of it? It is nishreyas. So it is going to give us the ultimate benefit to the living entity. What is that ultimate benefit? That he becomes free from material distress as well as material happiness. Uparati. He becomes detached from material happiness as well as distress. Not just material distress, material happiness as well, right? Because it's material. So, I am going to explain you three processes basically. So that's how he is saying. Vishwanath Thakur very clearly says. Yoga concerning Jivatma, Adhyatmik, that which is for Atma, that is Adhyatma, is approved as the most beneficial method for oneself. It has three types: Bhakti, Jnana, and Ashtanga. So Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. For Bhakti, benefit for oneself is secondary effect of Bhakti. So he is clarifying Nishreyasaya happens automatically in Bhakti. He doesn't have to separately endeavor for his own oneself. So that's how he is going to explain this. Adhyatmic yoga means all these three processes. But when he tells three processes, he will tell Bhakti is highest. So same thing he does in Bhagavad Gita also, if you see. When Arjuna is inquiring, first 6 chapters he speaks about Karma Yoga, which culminates into Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, right? And the last 6 chapters he elaborates for Jnana Yoga. But in middle chapters, it is most like there is a confidential knowledge, there is more confidential knowledge, and there is most confidential knowledge. So Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Karma Jnana Mishra Bhakti, uh, they are confidential knowledge. What is more confidential knowledge is 7 and 8 chapters, where there is Bhakti is more than the karma and jnana, right? The 4 types of people who come to Krishna. But that is also Mishra, but that is more confidential. But the most confidential knowledge is pure and unalloyed bhakti, which is told in 9 chapter, 10 chapter, Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So same thing here also he is going to tell us. So as I have written here, so bhakti will be explained predominantly in this chapter and the 29th chapter, right? So they are very important chapters which will spend proper time. And jnana is explained in 26 and 27. So there is intricate description of Prakriti, right? And so 26, 27, we saw that the understanding material nature, etc. What is Prakriti? Very technical explanation of Sarga. And Yoga Mishra Bhakti is told in chapter 28. So that's how this is a seed verse for the entire teachings. So he's going to explain Adhyatma Yoga, which has these three. So Prabhupada comments on the last line of this verse. That is, what is that? Uparatim yatra sukhasya cha dukhasya. So material world, even the happiness, what is there in the material world, is not complete. It is not unadulterated. Even if one is experiencing enjoyment now, he is sure to know that it is going to follow by distress. That's what he is right. One may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of material world. So just like a coin, it is. So it is inevitable. That's why Prahlad Maharaj says that if you want to become happy in this material world, stop desiring to become happy here. That is the beginning of happiness. Sukham andriyakam daitya deha yogena dehina sarvatra labhyate daivad yatha dukkham ayatnata. So when I read this verse for the first time in my life in college in this yoga, so I was like, my head was ringing that what? Just as distress comes without invitation, the happiness is also going to come. So why to endeavor for that? The endeavor should be for spirituality. So my head was ringing that, where I worked, where I was studying, the whole world is geared up for increasing the happiness. But actually, that's not possible. Whatever is written, Daiva, that much is going to come. And that also will come by its own, just as Dukkha comes. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Whatever you get, that is also not unadulterated. No one wants distress. So any kind of happiness one has to even one has is contaminated by distress. Right. So that's why Kapila is telling us to raise from this material platform to spiritual platform. Adhyatmic yoga, adhyatmic. And that is the preliminary introduction is given. Right? The Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental. But the preliminary introduction is given here. So this is preliminary introduction is this, yeah. It just will make you free from material happiness and distress. Right? So this is the verse which glorifies the Supreme Lord also. Ladini Sambit, Ladini Sandhini Sambit, Tvai Eka Guna Samshraye, Lad Tapakari Mishra, Tvai no Gunavarjiti. So Lord is such a personality in who are devoid of material qualities. What is material quality? The mixture of happiness, distress found in the material world. That does not exist in the Lord because he is with these three internal spiritual qualities, Samvit, Sandhini, and Ladiri. Right? So that's how the Lord is also defined. So the yoga is the connection with Lord. And bhakti is the most intimate connection with Lord without any personal motivation. So with that seed verse, now he is saying, Tamimam te pravakshami yamovacha puranaghi ऋषीणां शोतु कामानां yogam sarvanganaipunam. Someone else can read. Maybe Mataji can read. Yes.
O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way.
So I am also going to repeat something which I have spoken earlier. Right? I am not going to concoct any new system. And what is its speciality? First thing, it was already spoken earlier, which sages like Narada. Now, but what is another specialty? Yogam Sarvanga Naipunam. So it is a very serviceable and practical, very interesting translations done by Prabhupada. So it is can be practiced like Susukham Kartum Abhyam. Anyone and everyone can do it, and it's a very practical. So that is the process which I am going to explain. So I will explain three processes, and among that, bhakti is the most sarvanga naipuna. Very easy to practice, serviceable and practical. So, or another words, it is here. It is easy. The many angas of this yoga are easy to perform. And I explained this to sages such as Narada. So I am going to tell you the same thing. Tamimam. So Prabhupada says the point which I already said. It does not manufacture. So why we have to manufacture? When we have a super excellent process already present in Vedic scripture, there is no need to concoct new system to mislead the innocent public. So now, having said that, now he says the biggest important aspect is the mind or consciousness. So that is cause of bondage, and that can be cause of liberation. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Mana eva manusyasya karanam bandha mokshayo. So something similar here. Text 15. Chetah khalvasya bandhaya muktaye chatmano matam guneshu saktam bandhaya ratam va pungsi muktaye. Yes, Parmeshwari Mata, the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation.
Cheta, khalu, indeed. Cheta is the cause of bandhaya or muktaya. Yeah, for both, for all the living entities. And what is cause of bandhan? When the consciousness, cheta, like cheto darpanamarjanam we say. So that consciousness is attached to the three modes or the sense objects. Guneshu means both, can be taken in both ways. Three modes of material nature. But more important, grosser manifestation of three modes of material nature is a sense object. But three modes are like the invisible strings which move us. Right? So when one is attached to Guneshu Saktam Bandhaya and Ratimva Pungsi. So when the attachment is there for the three modes and the experiences of three modes through sense objects, then it leads to bondage. And when it is attracted to Pumsi, Pumsi is the Supreme Lord. Ratamva, Ratam is attraction. That will that is cause of Mukti. So very clearly he is saying. But if we see the context in which it is spoken from 15 onwards towards the further verses, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a very bird's eye view as a Sarartha Darshini, the essential meaning. So, Jivatmanam Khalu Mana Eva Badnati Mochayati Iti Ah. So, for all the living entities, it's the mind which causes bondage and liberation. But how? Through what? So he says, Dussanga Sussangabhyam. So he goes one step ahead of telling the cause of bondage is wrong association and cause of liberation is proper association. Right? So that's how he is giving an indication of future verses, the way Kapil Dev is speaking. Right? So you will see, so Prasangam Ajaram Pasham, that 20th verse is speaking exactly the same principle, but it is talking about the association. Right? So that's how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving us a deeper perspective into what is the means to change the consciousness. So that's what. So that's what is told in English here. The mind of the jivas binds him up by bad association and liberates him by good association. That is explained here. So, and the last part, so va means what? These two options are there. So va is but. So but means but the attachment to Lord can come by only pure bhakti, not by jnana and yoga. Pure bhakti is recommended for liberation. So cause of rati of Supreme Lord is bhakti. One cannot attain rati for the Lord by jnana and yoga, which he is going to explain. But rati cannot combine those processes. Only pure bhakti, one can get that. So that's what is elaborated. So Prabhupada here also says this and the next verses. So that these different qualitative activities with the central attachment for material enjoyment are cause of one's conditioned life. So the three modes he is saying, Guneshu or Maya consciousness. So attachment to three modes and activities of three modes. So some philanthropic activities without connection to Krishna, that is goodness. Passionate activities, which are filled with passionate desire to enjoy with doership, etc. And mode of ignorance activities, anger and destruction. So these different qualitative activities are there, but what is the central background in that? There is attachment, grosser to finer material enjoyment. I possess something that is grosser. I do something. I know I don't possess anything, but I do so much for the world. And the most fine is I know. I. So I and mine. They are all under three modes. And they are cause of condition. So that's how he is saying here. So now having said that I am going to, so this is the cause, the consciousness is the cause. Now from 16 to 18, he is going to tell Jnana yoga api mochakatvam bhakti sahayena aha. So as this verse told that pumso va, rati, ratam va pumsi muktai, right? So only by pure bhakti one can attain the attachment to the Supreme Lord. And one can become liberated in a special way of going to his abode, right? So but by jnana and yoga, they can cause liberation. As I told you, they are adhyatmic yoga, but they can avoid liberation only when they are mixed with bhakti. So that is told in 16 to 18 verses. Jnana yogayorapi mochakatvam bhakti sahayenaiva. Only by mixing bhakti in their practices, the jnana and yoga can avoid liberation. Otherwise, they can't. So that's the thing which is told here in three verses. So it is talking about this process. All three processes it is being talking about and telling that the assistance of bhakti is necessary. Otherwise, it is all fruitless. Like Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Avajananti vamudha manushim tanvashit. Those who deride my form, mogasha, moga karmano, moga jnana vichetas. Their all endeavors to attain any devotional perfection, that is asha. Moga karma means they will not attain any swarga. Moga jnana means they will not attain liberation without the bhakti. So that's what is told in three verses. Aham mamadhimanotthaihi kamalobhadibirmalaihi vitam yada manah shuddham adukham asukham samam.
Hare Krishna. When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed produced from the false identification of the body as I and bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In that pure state, he transcends the stage of so-called material happiness and distress.
Yeah. So when these three verses are taken together, we'll able to see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. So first verse is telling about the consciousness only of the purified person. Right? By any of the processes, if he is purified, what is his consciousness? So that's what is told, that he becomes free from the contaminations of Kama and Lobha. But the Kama and Lobha, how they are born? They are born from Aham and Mama. Right? So Aham, Mama, Bhima, Utthai means taken birth, produced. Kama, Lobha, Dipirma. So when that happens, then one's mind is purified. Vitam yana madasuk. And purified minds means he becomes equipoised in happiness and distress. Right? So that is what is told. So other way to look at these verses are these are the symptoms of a liberated soul through any process of karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti. Right? So that also is can be understood. So these are effects of purification and destroy. Right? So and so mind becomes free from contamination of Shama and Dama in case of Jnana Yoga, right? There are these practices. And Yama and Niyama for the Ashtanga Yoga, right? So, and then he has these symptoms which are there in the 3 verses. So, Prabhupada quotes that only, elaborates. The difference between conditioned life and liberated life occurs when we purify the mind and the consciousness. So it is not just the activities, right? So the mind and the consciousness has to be purified. So as we progress in bhakti, we may be like first we dress like a devotee, then we address like a devotee, then we speak like a devotee, then we act like a devotee. But eventually we have to come to the point of thinking like devotee and feeling like devotee, right? So thinking, feeling, all these things are happening in the mind and consciousness. So that's how Prabhupada is elaborating. In the beginning, Lord Kapila has said that the perfect yoga enables one to transcend the platform of material distress and happiness. How this can be done is explained here. One has to purify his mind and consciousness. This can be done by Bhakti Yoga system. So Prabhupada is emphasizing this process of Bhakti. So Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam and all Tatparatvena Nirmala. So mind must have some engagement. One cannot make mind vacant. So Vitam Yada Manashuddham, right? So Prabhupada is indicating that we cannot empty the mind. It has to have happiness, distress by saying no, 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 no. It has to have some engagement. So process of bhakti is to engage the senses and purify senses according to Lord's instruction. So there are some foolish attempts to try to make mind vacant or void. That is not possible. Prabhupada says the void is there only in their head. The only process that will purify the mind is to engage in Krishna. So mind must be engaged. If we engage our mind in Krishna, naturally the consciousness becomes fully purified and there is no chance of the entrance of material desire and greed. So kama and lobha, there is no space for them. So without bhakti, they can again influence a person. But bhakti. So Prabhupada is emphasizing on the glory of bhakti. Right? So same theme is going ahead. Tada purusha atmanam kevalam prakrite param nirantaram swayam jyoti animanam akhanditam. Maybe Shiromani Radhika Mataji, can you read now? 2-3 verses.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Translation.
At that time,
At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute in size.
so this is self-realization, right? So he is able to understand himself at that stage of purified mind, which was explained in the previous verse. Tada means then. So that jiva can understand that I am transcendental, I am impardonable, I am eternal, I am self-effulgent, and I am, although minute, animanam, akhanditam. I am not fragmented from the Supreme. So that's how he understands. So this is the self-realization. Right? So that's how. So Prabhupada says that one can, when one reaches, like God realization has self-realization in it automatically. So that's what Prabhupada is beginning. In state of pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, one can see himself as minute particle, not different than the Supreme Lord. So individual soul and Supreme Lord are not separated as in the material differentiation. So there is oneness and there is difference. So the fragmentation, Prabhupada comments, because Mayavad, so whenever Prabhupada sees Mayavad, he will punch them, right? Because they say that Brahman has fragmented. So spirit cannot be divided like a fragment of matter. Like he used to give the example of a paper. Paper, when paper is existing, if you make 5 you tear it off, then original paper doesn't exist. But that is not the case. That part of Jiva is eternally a part. As long as Supreme Spirit exists, the part and parcel also exist. As long as the sun exists, the molecules of sun rays also exist. So it's refuting the Mayavad, Akhanditam, and that word they use, Nirantaram, Akhanditam, Manimanam. So another part is it is infinitesimal and it is eternally infinitesimal. The Supreme Spirit is all pervading. It is not infinitesimal. The Param Brahma is all pervading, but individual Jiva is infinitesimal. Right? So Akhanditam means not exactly fragmented, but constitutionally always infinitesimal. So that's the meaning. And how to attain this process, by which processes one can attain these realizations of purified mind and self-realization. That is the 18th verse. That's how they are all connected. So here you can see all three processes are there. Jnana vairagya yuktena, bhakti yuktena chatmana, paripashyati udasinam prakritim cha hataujasam.
In that position of self realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerful upon him.
Yeah. So, how one attains such consciousness? By these processes. Jnana Vairagya Yuktena. So, equipped with Jnana and Vairagya, and Bhakti Yuktena Cha, equipped with Bhakti. So, that's how he is explaining the Adhyatma Yoga. So, there is Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti. But Bhakti Yuktena Cha means Bhakti has to be mixed with both of them. So what he says, he sees paripashyati atmana. So he sees in a right perspective this material world for what it is and what it can avoid. And then he becomes indifferent. Earlier he was getting inspired, agitated, attracted, but now he is able to see deeper. Because material world, as Krishna says, that yad yad vibhutimat sattvam shrimat urjitam eva. So there are attractive things in this world, but he sees beyond them that there is sutre mani ganayu. There is a lot behind that. That's why something is becoming attractive for some period of time. But now he becomes indifferent to it. And because of indifference, what happens? The material nature acts, influences less on him. So as Prabhupada has put, material influence acts less powerfully on him because he is able to see and interact with proper perspective. He thinks, seeing things in the right perspective. Paripashya. Seeing from all direction. Parityajya. Paripashyati. Not just see. So all the problem starts with seeing only. Arjuna wanted to see. I want to see who has come. Ajamila also saw or like that. But if he sees in proper perspective, there is no, not powerful influence of material nature. Right? So that's the thing which is mentioned in this verse. So Prabhupada interestingly says the diseases of three modes. The contamination of the germs of a particular disease can influence a weaker person. Similarly, the influence of material nature or illusory energy can act on a weaker or conditioned soul, but not on a liberated soul. So liberated soul's consciousness was told in the previous verses, right? And the processes are mentioned here. So as one becomes free from disease, the germs don't act on him, although germs are existing, because he's seeing things with right perspective. So one understands the constitutional position by knowledge and vairagya renunciation. Without knowledge, one cannot have realization. So that's why the sambandha gyan is extremely important. And actually the only most important responsibility of spiritual master is to avoid the Sambandha Gyan only. So Sambandha Gyan means trying to see the reality in proper context. It is not just saying that, okay, who am I, who is God, what is relationship. Yes, that is true. There is no doubt about it. But more than that is the Guru, as I told, that it reveals you the proper context of what you are seeing, the reality, the context of the reality. And the Abhideya is to interact with the reality with proper purpose and proper meaning. So that's how, and the realization is to live by that. So to know, to do, and to be. So without knowledge, one cannot have realization. So in the third canto beginning, you have learned that our Vidurva is telling Maitreya Muni that, my dear Maitreya Muni, what you are seeing, I am not able to see right now. The way you are able to see Krishna in the creation, but I am convinced by your answers. So my conviction will transform into vision or realization by serving you. So that's what is the importance. By serving such great souls, our conviction can transform into the experience, realization, or vision. So it is not just having knowledge. So that's how it should progress. That we are aware about something, and then we become convinced. When we become convinced, then we do it. Right? Many things we are aware, but we don't do because we are not convinced. When we are convinced, then we try to do it in our own life. So that is conviction. And then we start to realize, we live by those principles. So that's how Prabhupada is saying. Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yuktena Chatma. That's what he is explaining here in this particular section of the purport. So this, so the first realization is of self-realization, and that is beginning of bhakti. Right? So that's how he is saying. And paripashyati means he can see everything in its right perspective. Then the influence of material nature becomes almost nil. So Brahma Bhota Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati. Same thing. Mad bhakti labhati. So same thing is confirmed. So Prabhupada is kind of corroborating what is being said and elaborating by quoting the other context. Narad Pancharatra also says, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Right? So that's what is these three verses have told, right? The symptoms of liberated person and the processes by which we can reach there. Right? So having said that, among these three processes, only Shuddha Bhakti is the Shrestha. It is most pleasure giving and it is most auspicious. That is told in the next verse, right? Trayanam Madhye means Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Keval Bhakti Eva Shrestha. The pure devotion is the superlative, supermost. It is most pleasure giving, Sukhamai, and it is most auspicious, Parama Mangala. Means others are Mangala, others are Sukhamai, but the highest is Bhakti. So that is what is established in the 19th verse, where this section, as I told you, that 19 to 25 is the glory of Bhakti is beginning here. न युज्यमानया भक्त्या भगवत्यखिलात्मनि सदृशोऽस्ति शिवः पन्था योगिनां ब्रह्म सिद्धये भज हरि प्रभु will read. Okay, Yashika Mataji, can you read?
Translation. um, Translation: Perfection in self realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path.
So, having told about three paths as Adhyatma Yoga, now he is establishing that what he recommends, what is the highest, that is Bhakti. And what kind of Bhakti? That suitable Bhakti by which one can realize the Supreme Lord. The type of Bhakti which is most suitable for realizing the Supreme Lord. That is the most auspicious path. So now you jump, as Prabhupada says, dotted. Everything should be dotted in Bhakti. So, and by that one can attain Brahma Siddhi. So Brahma Siddhi can mean all the realizations, right? So that's what Prabhupada says. So but what Prabhupada says, what Lord is saying is Parama Mangala. Why it is Paramangala? Because it is Sadrushosti Shiva. It is auspicious path. So what is this auspiciousness of Bhakti path? So that is told in 6th canto beginning also, right? So why it is Nayastosti Shiva Pantha Sanskrute Iha? Because yatra, so the meaning is like this. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami is telling why this path is auspicious. What is the challenge in the paths of karma and jnana, or yoga? So he says there are devotees, sadhava, sushila sadhava yatra narayana parayana. So this path of bhakti is akuto bhayam, kshemam akuto bhayam. Nayasti Shiva Pantha. There is no other auspicious path other than bhakti, pure bhakti. Why? Because there is, first of all, there is no fear on this path. What is the fear? So fear is existing in jnanis and yogis because they are alone in practice. If they make some mistake, then they are doomed. So there is no help from anyone else in the path of jnana and yoga. So whereas path of bhakti, there are sushila sadhava yatra. So one practices bhakti in association of devotees. What kind of devotees they are? They are sushila, they are very well behaved. And they are sadhava, means they don't see the faults in others. Narayana Parayana. So this is one thing which makes it auspicious, which makes it appropriate. And second problem is there in the path of karma. What is that problem? That is the envy and competitiveness. The path of karma is filled with envy. All the people are staying together, not like yogis, jnanis, they are alone somewhere in Himalaya generally. But karmi means karma yoga, there will be competition in possessions and attainments and so on. So there is a lot of envy. So there is envy problem and there is fear problem. So both problems doesn't exist in bhakti because the association of devotees. A true devotee, or a Madhyamadikari, is non-envious. He becomes joyful to see others progressing in bhakti. So that's why this path is very auspicious. However, as I told you that this particular whole section is going to speak about Kevala Bhakti, the pure Bhakti, right? So when karma and jnana are mixed in bhakti also, then this fear and envy also mix, right? Naturally. So that's why he is telling that there is no other auspicious path like bhakti to attain the highest perfection. So that's how, so Prabhupada also says in the big purport here. So for that, so among three processes, bhakti is the best, being full of joy and most auspicious results. Bhakti alone is suitable for realizing Supreme Lord. So that's how he is recommending after telling. Just as Krishna also says the same thing, right? Yoginam api sarvesham madgate antaratmana shraddhavan bhajati yomam sameyuktatam. At the end of describing karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, he's telling the best yogi is one who abides in me, absorbed in me. Same thing is here stated. So that's all. So Prabhupada also writes that knowledge and renunciation are never perfect unless dotted with bhakti. That is explained here. So bhakti has to be mixed in order for even other processes to give their results of liquidation. So that also is indicated here. So Brahma Siddhaya. So Brahma Siddhaya means one understand Aham Brahmasmi. And then, but the glory of bhakti is that bhakti produces knowledge and detachment automatically. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayoja. So he doesn't have to try separately for renunciation or knowledge. Because bhakti inherently has these angas, right? Practicing four regulative principles and the lifestyle of a Vaishnava. There is renunciation needed to practice the angas of bhakti. And there is knowledge also of the Supreme Lord in form of Shravan Kirtan. So there is no separate endeavor for that. But devotional service itself is so powerful that once service attitude, everything is revealed. Hmm? So that's the right, when bhakti is performed with right intentions, then everything is progress. So path of devotional service is the most confidential means of attaining Param. So Parama Guhya Gyan. That's why it is Parama Guhya. It appears to be, it is given, but it is hiddenly given. But Prabhupada is fluffing it. Unless, and then he tells all these realizations. Bhakti necessitates the existence of the, so Bhakta, Bhakti and Bhagwan. Right? So, but the impersonalists cannot attain Bhakti. They want to merge. Right? So one who realizes the Supreme Personality, he realizes all other features. That's how he is the fully realized person. So this is what I explained. This is 6.170. What I explained in the beginning. The most auspicious path, without fear and without envy. So that's how this kind of section ends. Now, that bhakti, the root of that bhakti is sadhu sangha and all, etc. Who is sadhu? What are his characteristics? And how to associate, all that things are there in the further verses from 20 to 25. Right? So it's already 4:32. So pause here and see in case are there any clarifications, questions, comments, etc. Otherwise, you pause it. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Anyone has any comments, clarifications, questions, or anything to share about what we discussed today? They can go ahead without any hesitation. Or someone wants to proceed, they can proceed as well. Yes, Mataji, you want to say something? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Pranam, Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is like like we heard that apart from bhakti, everything is a sinful activity. So Prabhuji, like dharma, arth, gyan, dharma, arth, kam, moksha, all these are lie in the sinful activity region.
Yeah, in one sense, yes, what they are saying is true. That's how Prabhupada is strongly writing in that purport which I showed, right? So they fall in that category of sinful activity because it is not done for Lord. So actually, Prabhupada also defines, and I think which On the Way to Krishna, or one small book, that the deeper definition of sin is that which is not done for pleasure of Lord. So it's a most finest definition of sin, right? But when it comes to gross reality, then it is comes down that okay, if someone is following Vedic literature, then that is not sin, that is piety. Sin is that which is not written in Vedas, prohibited activity is called sin. So that's how the definitions go lower and lower as the recipient goes lower and lower. But what Prabhupada, being the propounder of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, and he is the Senapati Bhakta coming from Golok Vrindavan, he is not compromising anywhere, boldly writing that anything other than bhakti is sinful. Because what is the problem? Because of, I think what he is writing, this is which verse? Because he writes the consequence of that. One cannot become attracted to Krishna by that mixture. That's the problem. So this is which verse, Mother? Just to see. Yeah. This is which verse? Anyone remembers? Prabhupada says, no,
Either
because of,
15 or 16.
yeah. Just see Prabhupada very beautifully writes. What is the consequence of that? 15 or 16? No, I think not here. It is before. Yeah, here it is. So see, you can see Prabhupada is even writing about charity, right? So you see, this sinful activities are those activities performed in forgetfulness of our relationship with the Lord. So this is a very fine definition of sin. In this material world, activities for material enjoyment which are considered to be pious are also sinful. Let's give an example. Giving charity to needy person. It's a good activity, right? But why want the charity? There is some selfish motive that I will get something in return, right? So giving with the purpose of gaining something is called charity in mode of passion. So this is called the infection of modes, which is very fine. And that's what is making it sinful. Everything done here is done in the modes of material nature. And therefore, all activities but service to the Lord are sinful. And why? What happens by that? Because of the sinful activities, we become attracted by the illusion of materiality. So the consequence is that, as Prabhupada says, as Krishna also says, there are accidents on royal roads also, right? So one should not become attached to following the Vedic injunction. That is there in third chapter Bhagavad Gita, right? So that's the problem with the, so to say, pious activities, which are strongly called as sinful activities by Srila Prabhupada. Because one becomes attached to that. He becomes happy in the material world. Right? He doesn't want to go to spiritual. So that's why Prabhupada is strongly calling them sinful. Right? And that's how you see the danger is the Mishra Bhakti is manifestation of that. So we can see that there are respectful demigods who are taking up different responsibilities for Krishna. But at the same time, they want something of this world. So they remain here. So that's the problem. So that's how Prabhupada is writing here, the contamination of mixture. So modes contamination is mixture in bhakti. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, whatever we are doing apart from bhakti, it comes under Mishra Bhakti. Mishra things, I mean.
Not really. When you say bhakti, what do you mean by that? Means what do you do other than bhakti? What do you mean by that when you are saying?
Like somebody is watching cricket match or something. तो वो तो धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष में आ गया मतलब वो.
Yeah, so it is an activity which is not conducive for bhakti. Right? Yeah.
मतलब
So, however,
while he is doing seva and he is doing some other activities also apart from seva and other things, then it also comes under मतलब Mishra Bhakti.
no, that's why what I'm saying. Yesterday I gave example of His Grace Krishna Chandra Prabhu, right? So he's a businessman. He's running business. Many business he's running. He is not a temple person. He is dealing with so many businessmen. He's going traveling all over the world, but he is not doing all these things. Although he's dealing with matter and material relationships, but his consciousness is pure. So he is not, as you are saying, no, he has to be mixed practitioner. No, one can practice pure devotional service. One can be king of the whole world. right? Yudhishthir Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. So there is nothing like bhakti is such an activity where everything can be totaled in bhakti. So that's why I was saying that when you say other activities, what do you mean by that? If say other activities are necessary for the occupation or maintenance of family, and if they are done under instruction of Guru, then they are bhakti. So there is nothing other than bhakti. That way, if one has proper sambandha gyan, then he can do bhakti all the time, right? Or he can try to do bhakti all the time with proper guidance. Nothing has to be given up externally so much, except for sinful, gross sinful activities. Right? So that is what Mataji. It's not that anything we do other than bhakti, Navvidha bhakti, is Mishra bhakti. Not necessarily. Depends. It depends. Kayena vacha manasendriya va buddhatmana va nusrit svabha. Om is Vatsat. Sakalam parasmai Narayana iti samarpayat. So when one is doing his occupation also, but if it is under direction of Guru and his duty, so it will be bhakti only. But it depends on consciousness. As we are discussing, the purity of bhakti depends on the mind and the consciousness. Why we are doing what we are doing. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else have anything else to discuss? Okay. Fine. So, thank you all very much. So we'll meet in the next weekend now. So it's a very important section. So I would request the devotees if they can read it before, because it's very important section which is coming up from 20 to 25 and further also. Right? So thank you. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Pratim Dev ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
And then
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.